For over 1,000 years, Japan's people have battled creatures of nightmares, kaijus.
We're all gonna die!
These monsters come in all shapes and sizes, each with their own destructive power that could destroy an entire city. But you're probably wondering, why is Kafka's called number 8? And is his power literally left, right, good night? And how do the humans in the defense force extract the kaiju powers to create these bad boys? Well, to understand everything about numbered kaijus, we need to dive deep into the lore.
He said it! He said it!
Each kaiju possesses different abilities, but all of them gain their powers from a body part called the uni-organ. They can do anything from teleportation, shape-shifting, flight, and even your favorite, yapping. They can actually talk. Now, despite this, nearly every kaiju is unique, with only a few similarities, such as having a core that is like a heart. However, the location of this core is different between each of them, hidden behind their extremely durable bodies. In order to combat all of this, the Anti-Kaiju Defense Force assigned a scale to measure strength and classification, which is called Fortitude level. The first category of kaijus within this is Honju, which is the largest and most powerful, serving as the leader of all other smaller monsters in an army. These creatures usually boast a fortitude level exceeding 6.0. And to put this in perspective, a Honju in chapter 7 with a fortitude level of 6.4 required an entire platoon of defense force soldiers to stop it. And even then, only a captain or vice captain could neutralize a kaiju like it all alone. The smaller kaijus have a name for themselves called Yoju, who appear in large numbers. But despite having a lesser name for themselves, some of these monsters can even surpass a 6.0 fortitude. It just depends on their leader if they're immensely stronger, making them look like pipsqueaks. This is because the fortitude levels are exponential rather than linear, which means a 9.0 monster would be multiple times stronger than even 8.0 or 7.0. So with that knowledge, monsters that achieve a power of 8.0 or above have a special category assigned to them called Daikaiju. I mean, just look at them. You know what I'm doing seeing that shit.
Run, bitch! Run!
Now, unlike me, who would fold within a second, according to records, humans such as the Hoshina family is renowned for their swordsmanship dating back to the Muromachi period, which was around 600 years ago. The souls of those who died killing kaiju have been enshrined, as seen in chapter 66. That means these dudes have been fighting monsters for centuries, perfecting their combat styles, as Daikaijus emerged as far back as the Meiraki era, which spanned the years of 1655 to 1658. But putting the history lesson aside, the power levels of these creatures doesn't depend on their size. Unlike what she tells you.
Pause.
Now this is true because even our boy Kafka is a Daikaiju, as he boasts a fortitude level of 9.8. The reason he was immediately treated as a threat when his form was discovered was because Daikaiju are usually capable of engaging in independent destruction. According to Isao Shinomiya, the defense force had only about 24 elite officers capable of challenging them, with fewer than 10 able to do so individually. This number is extremely low because even within Daikaiju, the numbered are the most terrifying. Their abilities are unique and it takes multiple captain level officers to defeat an identified number, making their neutralization extremely difficult. So how do humans keep up with this insanity? I mean, some of us just want to enjoy Taco Tuesday. Well, the geniuses at the Defense Force figured out the answer with anime bullshit science. The combat suit used by members of the Defense Force, provided by Izumo Tech, work with the Government Neutralization Bureau. The defense suit is a bioweapon made of kaiju cells and muscle fibers, and depending on the unleashed combat power, it buffs the wearer's physical attributes like strength, speed, precision, and reflexes. Izumo Tech is the biggest anti-kaiju weapon manufacturer company in Japan. Once Daikaiju are killed, they are turned into even more powerful numbered weapons that give humans strength equal to them to combat future threats. These are the strongest weapons humanity has made, which makes them the most precious asset to the Defense Force. However, the only way to wield these tools is to match them with a compatible user, as they take a massive toll on the bodies. When a compatible user synchronizes with the energy and cells of a Daikaiju, it stimulates their brains, which leads to a surge in a neurotransmitter level. This causes their basic human desires and nature to surface, sometimes to the point of risking death. So, if that doesn't sound like anime bullshit science, what can I tell you, fam? Now, because of the continued use of numbered weapons, it can strain the user's body and even shorten their lifespan. On top of that, the users can have visions of the kaiju and access the memories of the weapon's past owners as ghosts. Are they sure that they're not schizophrenic? Imagine you saw a ghost and people would be like, "You're right in the head, mate."
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
I'm kidding, I need to stop joking around. Because this ghost is believed to be the memories of the previous user stored within the monster. For example, Kikoro Shinomiya could see her mother fighting with the same weapons as when she was alive. However, in the unique case of Hoshina's numbered weapon made from Kaiju No. 10's body, it is considered a sentient weapon, as it can speak and move partially on its own. Just look at how it was constantly yapping in his ear, telling him to face every monster head on instead of being a pussy.
Shut up!
But with the lore out of the way, let's begin with the 15 identified kaijus throughout history and their powers. According to Director General Isao Shinomiya, Kaiju No. 1 was a fearsome monster whose attacks were impossible to avoid because it had a special ability. Its retina could see through living things and find their weak points, giving it enhanced vision. This also allowed it to predict its opponent's moves, knowing what they would do in advance, making Kaiju No. 1's attacks incredibly accurate. Yeah, I can already see you typing it. Oh my god, it's basically the Sharingan they copied Naruto.
You're smoking crack. Stop.
But essentially, No. 1 was the first numbered weapon created from a neutralized kaiju, making it Japan's oldest numbered weapon. It is currently used by the strongest Defense Force member, Gen Narumi, who is the captain of Squad No. 1. His unleashed combat power is 98%, and he is capable of a full release, which brings out the full power of Kaiju No. 1. However, even though the weapon has the same power as the kaiju, Gen created a more advanced form of foresight. When he was facing Kaiju No. 11, Gen Narumi struggled to use the weapon's powers because the monster had the ability to control water, making it hard for him to operate effectively. But this dude leveled up. He evolved its abilities so that it could detect electrical signals and sense electron movements, temperature changes, and terrain alterations. This insane power helped him easily overcome a Daikaiju of at least 9.0 fortitude. However, since this weapon lacks brute strength on its own, Gen cannot stop or block an extremely powerful attack from his opponent. Plus, repeated usage of this weapon causes his eyes to bleed, which makes me put Kaiju No. 1 at A tier. Moving me on to Kaiju No. 2. as this one has unparalleled raw power. This massive kaiju was a disaster that appeared in 1972 and nearly destroyed the city of Sapporo, the largest city in Hokkaido's prefecture. However, once the defense force eventually defeated it, its body was used to create the combat suit and gauntlets for the general himself, Isao Shinomiya. Number 2's power made its weapon so strong that only a man of his caliber could handle its might. The general created troop style focused on hand-to-hand combat. This fighting style is derived from the lower body, where the user channels the power created with the legs into their fists. The general's fighting style combined with his combat suit and number 2's gauntlets allowed him to fight like Daikaiju. It is so effective that Hoshino trained Kafka to use this power against number 9, whom both are utilizing at full power. Everyone witnessing their fight states that with just a few blows, the entire city won't last much longer, with the fragility of civilization being exposed. And just like the other monsters, number 2 had an immense sense of pride, holding onto it until its very death. But even still, it had fully merged with the general to reach a formidable level of power, as he even faced Kafka going berserk in Kaiju No.8's form. Their battle was literally 2 kaiju clashing their egos against each other, with number 2 easily overpowering number 8 for most of the battle, even injuring its extremely durable body, making it break its own spine and destroying everything, just leaving its core. This meant that even though the general was past his prime, number 2's weapons allowed him to reach a Daikaiju level of fighting capacity. The director himself commented that he will be dead from number 8's punches without Kaiju number 2's shields, showcasing how durable it was. As we know, Kafka's monster possesses a Fortitude level of 9.8, and this would explain why it took the defense force so long to kill number 2 in the first place before it destroyed an entire city in 1972. Now, one of its powers that allowed number 2 to perform such a crazy feat was its sonic boom. A single force blast punch from the director sent number 8 flying, and as soon as their attacks met, they caused massive damage to 2 layers of the military grade bunker, which could withstand a 10.0 fortitude. However, even then, they still shattered the floor and walls. But it gets even better. At full release, Kaiju number 9 claims that not even its powered up body could withstand the attack of the general's burst. So since Kaiju number 2 could release incredibly destructive energy, like electricity from its mouth, the suit made from its body could also emit extremely high levels of electromagnetic energy, making it clear as day that number 2 belonged in A tier because it was simply impossible to stand against. And combined with the power of the general, it was a whole different beast together. To prove this, although number 1's weapon user Gen holds the title as the strongest, he has never once been able to beat his former mentor, the General Shinomiya. The reason for this is because he acknowledged Gen Narumi's level of skill and that it would soon surpass his own. So he kept up with his training non-stop, even in the late hours of the night, to continue being a wall that stood in Gen's way to overcome him one day. This swiftly brings us to Kaiju number 4. It possesses several sets of wings on its back, enabling it to achieve high speeds in flight. In fact, number 4's weapons form is regarded as the fastest among all numbered weapons. Now, considering how number 9 and 8 in the manga dealt with speeds equal to Mach 5 to 10, which is around 3,800 to 7,600 kilometers per hour, we start to get an idea. fear. Hence, the weapon also grants the user wings similar to Kaiju No. 4, enabling them to fly through the air with unmatched speed. It allows the user to effortlessly defeat Kaiju at speeds too quick for the human eye to even track. We see a display of this speed in chapter 72, when Kikoro Shinomiya was able to cross the rest of the distance to the National Diet building from Koto Ward of Tokyo in an instant at this speed, breaking multiple sound barriers. With Kaiju No. 4's suit, Kikoro moves too fast for the 40% and higher defenseful soldiers to even keep track of her in battle, and comment she is lightning fast. In fact, we can scale Kaiju No. 4's weapon to Mark 17. During a battle, monster number 15 was in Shinjuku Ward, and Kikoro started in Araiki Coast. She is fired from across the bay water and straight to the wall. And what do you know? Once she shows up, she slays the 7.0 Fortitude Kaiju with ease. Even if we use a ballpark of 3 seconds to cross an 18-kilometer distance, Mark 17 would be reached, which is almost 21,000 kilometers per hour. Number 4's weapon being used by one of the strongest defense force members is proof of its strength. Hikairi is not only the wife of General Isao, but she was also a famous captain of the 2nd Division. In other words, she was like the Mina Ashiro of her time and served as a pillar of the defense force, to the point that number 4 imprinted her memory within the weapon. When Kikoro, her daughter, began using the weapon, she could see her mother's ghost appear as number 4, as it was very judgmental with her, like a typical Asian parent. It didn't acknowledge Kikoro to use the weapon efficiently until she achieved her mother's capacity of speed and fighting prowess. After training with Gen Narumi, Kikoro is able to release 84% of her suit's power, with the number growing to 88% in a stable form and 94% at its highest. Thus far, Kikoro's combat power percentage is the highest as a non-captain defense force officer. This puts number 4 at a power level of B tier because it heavily relies on the user's combat ability. Hikairi and Kikoro are both prodigies, which is why they could make the monster appear so formidable, with only 7.0 Fortitude monsters being dealt with so far. We are yet to see something higher, as even Hikairi had to sacrifice her life to stop number 6. And speaking of which, it's next up, the King of Kaiju. When it was alive, number 6 possessed a fortitude level of 9.6, making it the strongest Daikaiju after Kafka's number 8. Its appearance and title is a homage to Godzilla, the King of Monsters, as number 6 was behind a great disaster that shook Japan. 10 years ago, it orchestrated an unparalleled cataclysm alongside multiple Honju, resulting in one of the biggest catastrophes ever recorded. This event led to the death of 200 defense officers and 3 captains, with 2nd Division Captain Hikairi Shinomiya being the most notable victim. Its attack in Odawara triggered a snowstorm, solidifying its reputation as the symbol of despair. Even after being converted into a weapon, Kaiju No. 6 remained unmatched in power, being considered the most dangerous weapon in the defense force arsenal. In fact, there wasn't anybody compatible with the weapon, so it was abandoned in cold storage. As a numbered weapon, its strength was still formidable enough to defeat a skilled young officer like Leno Ichikawa, as it possessed ice-related abilities. Its mere presence on the battlefield could induce a massive snowstorm, and the suit created from it can emit cold energy. However, Hoshino recommended Leno as a compatible user for this weapon, which is how he used it successfully in battle against a Mole Type 67 Kaiju, officially becoming the weapon's wielder in the force. Currently, whilst wearing Weapon 6, Leno's full release force has risen to 43%, and he can further increase his suit's power to 51. He gains many abilities from the Daikaiju, such as expelling large amounts of ice and freezing energy from his body, mimicking Kaiju No. 6 powers. Leno can also use it to stick to his surroundings by releasing ice from his feet, which helps him maintain balance, and the outfit also contains freezing rounds in his gun. But he doesn't even need the gun, because he can freeze his opponents with a single touch of his hand. After honing his skills even more, Leno can now freeze an entire swarm of Daikaiju in a single attack, which is absolutely ridiculously broken. Basically, you have the power of cryokinesis, the psychic ability to control and create ice and cold temperatures. Ice is pretty much at your fingertips that can be applied to your imagination for any power that you would need. So even without Leno's skills, No. 6 is definitely a very solid and dangerous weapon. And the fact that even Hikari had no chance against it with her overpowered No. 4, it tells us that it's an easy S tier classification.
Now, I'm here to tell you to never judge a book by its cover, because the most OP and strongest kaiju on this list is actually this guy. Okay, no, actually, you know what? In this case, do judge a book by its cover, because the series is literally named after it. Nonetheless, despite looking like it belongs in Australia, this book would go down in history as one of the greatest kaiju to ever exist, with a Fortitude level of 9.8. I'm of course talking about none other than Kaiju No. 8, who searched for Kafka and forcefully made him its host. This makes their duo the only known symbiotic and friendly coexistence of a human and kaiju without either one of them being dead. Because of this though, Kafka gained the ability to transform into a powerful humanoid Daikaiju, giving him incredible powers. Over time, he learned to control this overwhelming strength more effectively, allowing him to transform specific body parts whilst maintaining a human appearance according to his needs, most of the time. However, due to his kaiju nature, Kafka can only access a fraction of his own power, limiting his combat suit's capabilities to just 1%. But let's be real, who needs a kaiju suit when you can have a kaiju form? Kafka's kaiju transformation boasts unparalleled fortitude. He can easily overpower other kaiju, including ones as formidable as No. 9. Kafka's mastery over his new form is such that he can even take on attacks from seasoned Defense Force soldiers like Soshiro and disarm them without even causing harm. However, when facing Isao and his OP Kaiju No. 2, Kafka struggled to control his transformation, leading to an uncontrollable rampage as the monster inside him had only one mission: kill Kaiju. Even though he retained his consciousness, Kafka's body was completely in the hands of Kaiju No. 8, who was zeroed out on completely destroying everything. This is because whilst the origins of this little guy are mysterious, we do know that its survival instincts are crazy, and that he's got some serious beef with other kaijus. I'm talking like Kendrick and Drake level.
Easy. He dropped another track on you. He doubled down on you.
The only way Kafka was able to prevent it from killing Isao and his weapon No. 2 was by momentarily grasping control so that he could impale himself in the chest. After his recovery, Kafka's use of Kaiju No. 8 drastically improved, as seeing how it fought against Isao made him realise he wasn't drawing out the full power of this creature. So Kafka took inspiration and completely bodied No. 9's clone with absolute ease. In terms of combat style, Kafka has to adapt due to his limited ability to use the Defense Force's standard equipment. However, after No. 9's absorption of No. 2, Kafka learned the fundamentals of the squadron-style combat technique from Soshiro, enabling him to channel power into his fists, an ability which put the entire structure of the city at risk when he used it against Kaiju No. 9. Thus, to compete with and tackle No. 9's memory of Isao's mastery over this technique, Soshiro took it upon himself to teach Kafka the secret Hoshina family style and incorporate it into his squadron technique. This evolved version allowed Kafka to surpass and produce a greater power output than Isao himself, using his No. 3 variant modified Twist Blast. And so it goes without saying that Kafka's raw power is immeasurable, as just a single punch can destroy Daikaijus several times bigger than him. His durability is also exceptional, with thick skin that allows him to tank powerful attacks. Even if he does take damage, like when Hoshino managed to slice into his torso, by using its ability to shapeshift, Kaiju number 8 simply broke the blade by growing a mouth in place of the cut. We've also witnessed Kafka use this shape-shifting ability to buff himself and his power output as seen in Chapter 8. This power can be used for various purposes, such as creating tentacles or morphing his tongue into a capturing weapon. What's more is that he can regenerate from injuries and even regrow limbs, although this does drain a lot of stamina. In addition to this though is that Kafka also has the ability to slow down the regeneration of others, as seen against Kaiju number 9, whose crazy healing factor was slowed down considerably to the point he had to flee. Luckily, Kaiju number 8's speed and reflexes are fantastic, helping it avoid the need of using its own regeneration by dodging high-speed attacks, as well as covering great distances with its leaps. I mean, bro even dodged hypersonic attacks from Kaiju number 9. He can also release a powerful energy beam which can enhance his strength and speed by emitting it from its body's pores. And this is a big boost too, as it made it so that even its roar destroyed Kaiju number 9's projectiles. Most importantly, Kafka's transformation has also granted him a unique sense that allows him to detect nearby kaiju and identify their types. Despite earlier working only in his kaiju form, now be it underground or several miles away, Kafka's kaiju detection works even in his human form. This also signals that the merging between number 8 and Kafka is underway, as after a certain number of transformations his hand didn't go back to being human. As this assimilation is completed, we can't even begin to imagine the beast Kafka will become, meaning he easily goes into the S tier category. But if you want to know more about this little guy and why he chose Kafka, I hear that there's a video floating around where it goes balls deep into the topic. That being said, we're not done, as there are even more crazy ass kaiju, and none are more unhinged than Kaiju number 9 with its creepy shape-shifting abilities where it can absorb and turn into any human such as this. You see, number 9 is the mastermind behind a series of disasters that hit Japan in recent times. These aren't just your mindless kaiju attacks though, they are calculated acts of war. Yep, Kaiju number 9 acts in the most evil, human way possible, which is what makes it so terrifying. That's right, as we said earlier, the corpses of kaiju are turned into powerful weapons, but number 9 is on a mission to bring them back to the kaiju side. In fact, it is ruthless and focused on completing its missions at any cost, showing no hesitation in killing enemies who confront it. The most terrifying power it possesses is its insane shape-shifting, using it to blend in with humans and attack at the right time. It first appeared during the final phase of the Defense Force examination to one-shot Kikaru. Moreover, it also displayed its power to revive dead kaiju by resurrecting Honju she had killed, something which shouldn't have been possible. Months later, number 9 disguised himself as a human to do the same in the battle at Sagamihara. However, when his true form was revealed by Leno and Ehuru, he fought them, aiming to capture a live Defense Force officer. His goal was to become stronger until he could take back all these kaiju, and so what better way to do that than devour the strongest soldiers to weaken their forces. You heard that right. Number 9's OP ability is that he can merge anyone with himself, be it kaiju or human. In fact, it can also access the memories and physical abilities of the people it merges with. Thus, by absorbing a human with a kaiju weapon, number 9 would become exponentially stronger with a whole range of new abilities. It's killing two birds with one stone. But despite Leno's powerful attack against it, number 9 effortlessly protected himself by manipulating nearby corpses to act as one giant meat shield, mocking Leno's efforts, showcasing it was capable of emotion. But at this moment, it was not as strong as our boy Kafka. Despite his projectiles being able to pierce number 8's armor, as in an instant, number 9 was decapitated. In fact, the series was set to end there and then as Kafka managed to expose his core. Nonetheless, plot armor came to his side. Other soldiers arrived at the scene, giving him the slightest opening to escape through, but not before vowing to kill Kafka in the future. It showcased its incredible speed and reflexes, able to move so quickly that even Leno struggled to track it, whilst it was deflecting bullets effortlessly. Additionally, it is highly durable, as it took on several punches from Kafka in his kaiju form, but still did not die. But most importantly is number 9's intelligence and ability to adapt, which sets it apart from all else, making it the biggest disaster the world has ever faced. The Director General even called number 9 a virus, and Kaiju Neji considered it a major threat. Using its big brain, number 9 outplayed the entire defense force to complete its primary objective to target the director of the defense force, Isao. It was here number 9 molted to level up. This made it so that he could go toe to toe with a full release Isao and weapon numbers 2. But 2 full power energy blasts head on, and despite barely hanging on, he did survive. In fact, he'd become so strong that number 9 himself even had to ask if maybe he was actually too powerful now. Thus, it's no surprise that Kaiju number 9 is among the strongest kaiju in the series, with a fortitude level of 8.5 at the very beginning. However, after absorbing the power of number 2 in Isao, number 9 is the new king of the monsters, meaning its fortitude level must be through the roof. What's worse is that by taking in the memory of the Defense Force General, number 9 then also had a complete and total understanding of all the intel and Isao's mastered abilities. This is dangerous when you take into consideration how he has the ability to order and control hundreds of other kaiju, including ones of a fortitude level over 9.0. And it goes without saying that number 9's overall ability also went to the moon, from its ability to create new and more advanced numbered kaiju to its overall strength. Whereas Kafka had beaten him within an inch of his life before, this time number 9 was able to match his punch's strength to block them with one hand, whilst also fighting the strongest officer, Narumi Gen, and his weapon number 1, something Kafka thought was just simply impossible. To further emphasize this insane boost number 9 got after merging with Isao and his weapon, whilst Narumi originally overpowered him with his foresight ability to literally see someone's movements before they happen, after the merger, number 9 was able to react in time to Narumi's attacks. That is how fast this man thinks and acts now. Whereas before he had to root himself into the ground to create a large bombardment of projectiles to destroy an entire city block, after molting, he was shown to do this with just a single attack. All of this alone makes him an easy S tier kaiju, but we're not done, as he can even clone himself, create a field that stops all communication from entering, almost like its very own pocket dimension free from outside interference, and finally fly at speeds that break the sound barrier. A fun fact is that it was told that number 9 has a base at the Philippine Sea, which is a nod to the movie Pacific Rim. Kaiju number 9 and Slattern, a kaiju from that film, even share several similarities in their appearance, such as hammerhead-like heads, multiple eyes, and a spiky scaly body. Additionally, they are both considered the strongest kaiju in their respective worlds and cannot be easily killed by anti-kaiju forces. Both also seem to have a leadership role amongst other kaiju, acting as alpha specimens. Kaiju number 9 embodies this by being the parent of multiple kaiju, constructing to fight against the Defense Force officers. This showcased his high level intelligence, which adds weight to number 9's easy classification in the S tier, as using Isao's memories, he created specific kaiju to counter each powerful officer's strengths, starting with number 10. Right after Kafka and the crew got done with their first mission, they were faced with a massive threat, an attack on the Division 3 base at Tachikawa. This kaiju attacked with a wyvern-type Yoju, aiming to capture the Defense Force members, directly going for Soshiro Hoshina, the vice captain. To everyone's shock, it proved to be as powerful, if not stronger, than Kaiju number 8. Its punches were likened to meteorites. One hit on Soshiro and he'd be dead, as the air pressure of the strikes alone destroyed city blocks, whilst defensively it was a cut above the rest too, as even its hide was stated to be stronger than Kaiju number 8's. Number 10 is also incredibly quick, capable of dodging even Soshiro's rapid attacks and demonstrating remarkable reflexes. This is notable because Soshiro is one of the fastest soldiers on the Defense Force when it comes to medium-sized kaijus. Despite damaging gate number 3, number 10's arm was severed by Soshiro before it could finish him off, and it transformed its appearance to grow in size. In this form, it overpowered Soshiro with ease and prepared to kill him, only to be one-shot by Mina. With help from Soshiro and Kikaru, they exposed number 10's core and destroyed it, but not before it used a loud scream to order a bomb strike from the wyvern-type kaiju under its command. Nonetheless, number 10's consciousness remained intact after its defeat and was weaponized for Soshiro to use. Despite their fighting styles clashing, Soshiro had to let number 10 take control during the battle at Chofu Airport, a battle which saw the airport annihilated as Soshiro and Kaiju No. 10 matched blows with the Fortitude 9 Kaiju. They even executed a new technique, the Sword Slay, with 12 strikes that exposed and damaged No. 12's core after the suit's full release. No. 10 initially had a Fortitude level of 8.3, which increased to 9 when it transformed. Even when it was merely just a floating head in a tank, it retained a Fortitude level of 5.7. However, No. 10 revealed that it was created by No. 9 as a failed prototype for No. 12, which is why he was an outcast and chose to side with Soshiro to fight strong opponents. Thus, he became the first ever kaiju to ask to be turned into a weapon, and the first ever sentient one as well. Because of this, the author Matsumoto stated he gave the weapon a tail so that No. 10 had something he could control outside of Hoshina's will, symbolizing a dog chasing after their tail, which is what Hoshina and No. 10's dynamic is based on. But given that No. 10's Fortitude level is not as high as compared to other Daikaiju and only works well against medium-sized kaiju, whilst also being a prototype, unfortunately for him, he lands in the B tier. Now, whilst No. 10 was a failed prototype, it didn't let that stop No. 9 from creating the perfect version, Kaiju No. 12. However, whilst looking similar, it was a quiet and indifferent creature unlike the aggressive No. 10. And though it was a miniature class kaiju, No. 12 was specifically designed to combat and defeat Soshiro, the Defense Force's strongest close quarters combatant, as it exhibited immense physical strength and speed, far surpassing that of Kaiju No. 10. It was capable of launching its opponents through the air and causing significant destruction with just one slash. No. 12 even managed to outmaneuver and eventually corner the vice captain, shattering his swords. In a desperate move, Soshiro switched to a backup katana and adopted a different sword style, which allowed him to sever one of No. 12's hands. Despite this setback, No. 12 did not get defeated, showcasing its insane durability. Moreover, No. 12 not only survived but also adapted to Soshiro's fighting style.
What?
It did this instantly by growing a new arm with a newly spawned blade of its own and mimicked Soshiro's single blade technique. However, Soshiro devised a new technique on the spot along with No. 10, managing to expose No. 12's core. Nonetheless, on the 12th and final strike, the kaiju blocked it, where it even landed a major strike that severed the tail of the No. 10 suit. Shockingly, it could easily penetrate Defense Force equipment and even damage a numbers weapon 10, all whilst Soshiro was at full release. Nonetheless, the tail he had earlier cut off came back to haunt him, as No. 10 still had independent control, landing the killing blow to the core from behind. Despite suffering this critical blow, No. 12 still displayed insane resilience, regrowing an arm and attempting to continue the fight. But at this point, its core began to break down, and even though No. 12 attempted to push forward, it collapsed and faded away. Soshiro offered a gesture of respect and acknowledged it for its formidable fighting spirit, because after all, the fact that it showed mastery in swordsmanship even against Soshiro, who was considered the best in the Defense Force, was too huge of a feat to ignore, landing it in the A tier. The third kaiju created by No. 9 was first spotted on the Tohoku Expressway. It raced alongside cars, reaching high speeds for 12 kilometers before vanishing. The idea for Kaiju No. 13 was inspired by urban yokai from Japanese folklore that are said to run at high speeds on highways and through tunnels. Therefore, this competitive nature was the only personality Kaiju No. 13 displayed, and unlike some of its siblings, it was unable to speak and showed no interest in its surroundings, focusing solely on defeating its enemies quickly. During the cataclysmic attacks, No. 13 appeared in Azumi and was later targeted by the 1st Division platoon leaders. Despite their efforts, Kaiju No. 13 gained the upper hand with no injuries, nearly killing platoon leader Tachibana. After all, No. 13 started with the Fortitude level of 9, which increased to 9.2 when it powered up. This makes No. 13 the kaiju with the 3rd highest Fortitude level known, only behind No. 6 and No. 8. In fact, platoon leader Rin Shinonome fell into complete despair, stating fighting it was useless, as its offensive capabilities and mobility far exceeded that of any kaiju they had fought before. When she fired at it with her machine gun, No. 13 easily swatted away the bullets and destroyed her weapon with a powerful punch, showcasing its strength. Moreover, when Rin attacked it with a freezing grenade and a rifle, No. 13 quickly closed the distance and knocked her down. However, before it could finish her off, Kafka transformed and intervened. This surprised 13, and it suddenly became excited at the thought of fighting Kaiju No. 8. Hence, No. Number 13 enhanced its muscles by running in place and charged at Kafka. Yeah, just chuck it into A tier and let's move on, shall we? Now, Kaiju number 14 is definitely the weirdest one created by number 9. I mean, look at it. Look at this thing. Like, what in the 2001 Space Odyssey is this? No wonder people were freaked out when it randomly appeared in Saitama Prefecture's train line. However, despite its appearance, this kaiju actually has some insane power. When number 14 appeared in Tachikawa, Captain Mina took charge of neutralizing it because the kaiju was massive and floated in the air. Despite her efforts, number 14 used its instant teleportation ability to evade her attacks, which were purposefully designed by number 9 as a countermeasure to Mina's long-distance weapon skills. Moreover, number 14 had the ability to destroy the city by projecting destructive energy beams from each mouth on its head. In fact, it even generated a force field that endured attacks of missile fire and standard defense force rifles. However, when number 14 launched a direct attack on Mina, she managed to dodge and counterattack to destroy it. So I'll go ahead and say this is also A tier, but that wasn't the end, as despite number 14 being declared dead, Kaiju number 9 forcefully created a portal through its body connecting to its counterpart, allowing 9 to surprise gang Mina so that it could absorb her incredible power for itself. The last specially manufactured kaiju from number 9's factory was the opponent of Kikaru. Kaiju number 15 was the most human-like kaiju created by number 9, which can be because of Isao's memories. Since he wanted to take down Kikaru, number 9 used his power to read the memories to create a replica, with the only substantial difference between the two being black hair instead of blonde. In fact, the way it behaved, including her arrogance, was similar to Kikaru, going as far as her daddy issues. Since its creation, number 15 also sought number 9's love and affection, much like a human daughter would from her father. However, number 9 manipulated 15's emotions, using them to make it stronger for its own goals, being oblivious to 15's feelings and seeing it only as a pawn. Number 9 told her that killing Kikaru would be the ultimate challenge for 15 if it wanted love from the monster, which is why it later appeared in Shibuya Ward, where it observed its surroundings for 3 minutes before departing. 3 months later, the kaiju disguised itself as a human being before attacking some bystanders in Kabukicho, and during the cataclysm it faced off against Kikaru. Even though it appeared like a little girl, the kaiju revealed its true nature as a cruel and cunning creature, as it was powerful enough to easily kill multiple Defense Force officers in Chapter 78. But what truly made it a formidable opponent for Kikaru was its mental powers, because number 9's aim with this was to attack Kikaru where she was the weakest: her mind. Its master plan was to work around her unparalleled strength and exploit her insecurities. Thus, number 15 constantly mocked Kikaru throughout the fight, showing off its abilities, including moving freely in the air and superhuman physical strength, allowing it to crack buildings and concrete with ease. Number 15 could also release extremely powerful energy beams from its mouth, capable of scattering in different directions to take out various targets, or releasing a single beam powerful enough to wipe out an entire Defense Force platoon and destroy a building in one blow. Thus, it ridiculed Kikaru for not being able to take it down even with her axe, showcasing its remarkable speed by evading and catching up to the fastest numbers weapon. To put this into perspective, Kikaru's weaponized number 4 was said to be the fastest kaiju to exist, scaling to Mach 17, yet she was completely countered and evaded by number 15. However, with the help of Kikaru's mom's ghost, she finally managed to land a slight hit on 15's face and reach her maximum combat power to expose 15's core, who was forced into retaliating with a psychological attack. You see, number 15 could manipulate the psyche of its victims, connecting to their brains and control their minds, forcing them to recollect memories and traumas from their life. Additionally, it could read minds, pinpoint specific events or emotions, and create illusions through the target's memory. Hence, inside her subconsciousness, number 15 questioned Kikaru about her reason for wanting to become stronger and taunted her by stating that her parents were dead and that she could never be praised by them again. This caused Kikaru to fall into despair, but she overcame this thanks to her memories of Kafka. As Kikaru regained her resolve to prove herself as a worthy Defense Force officer, she relentlessly attacked number 15, eventually delivering a fatal blow to this A-tier kaiju. Although number 15 was a despicable monster, Kikaru was able to give it sympathy for being mistreated by number 9 and vowed to one day pay it back. Now, if you want to enjoy even more peak kaiju fiction, check out this video on how Kafka became the strongest.